Welcome, everybody. My name's Jeff St. Laurent. This is the Tuesday live show. I do this each and every week, and I talk around topics that are valuable for you coaches who are launching and getting into launching your coaching business, ideally going full time, or whatever it looks like for you. Like I said, I help coaches transition to that full time business, and today's topic is talking around the ups and downs of a coaching business. Those of you that follow me or will follow me know that I really teach the fundamentals and I really stick with the long-term mindset. And I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that I've experienced with entrepreneurship. I've been doing this full-time since 2004. Prior to doing my coaching business full-time, I was an entrepreneur in the fitness industry as a fitness professional, personal training, nutrition, things like that. So it's a journey, and I want to share some of those things and how I adopted some of my philosophies that keep me in the game, because this is all about keeping you in the game. I do record all these live shows. I put them on my university at sellingcoaching.com. You can check out, I have a lot of great resources there as well. If you want to start off right on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, you can enter your name and email, and not only will that give you a great audio resource, it's a free gift. Basically, it's teaching you the first 3 vital steps of launching a full-time coaching business. That's also going to put you in my email community, which is going to allow you to get some great information from me on a weekly basis, and also let you know about any great things that I'm doing. With that being said, let's talk about the ups and downs of a coaching business. And obviously, yes, I mean, just like life, there's ups and downs, and we've got to weather the storms when the storms are there. You know, with a coaching business, especially with what we're doing, and I say coaching business specifically because, you know what, coaching business is very different from a lot of other businesses, and mainly because it's a service that we're selling, but the service is highly based on us and our performance. And so it deals a lot with our confidence and our self-esteem and who we are, our beliefs in ourselves, our beliefs around money, asking for money, you know, the skill sets of selling and presentations. And we are in, well, I can say it like this, we're in the limelight, but it's not like we're actually in the limelight. That's not the intention of, oh, we got to be in the limelight. But in order to sell coaching, if you will, which is a very ethereal or experiential product or service, meaning they got experience to really understand the value of it, you get to a position where, you know, you've got to be the one out in front of people, you know, and you got to be sharing your message. And with that comes a lot of vulnerabilities. With that gives us a lot of exposure. And I say a lot of exposure, it's just we can feel exposed. And so initially what I found the ups and downs are as we're launching our business is just, if you will, one is the loneliness of what we do. And I say the loneliness meaning at the end of the day, we're on our own. Now, granted, you can have a great support network, which I highly recommend. You could be working in groups of people. At the end of the day, though, like I'm in this office by myself. No one cares what I do or don't do in a given day. So there's a high level of discipline that we must have and find a way to have if we're going to be successful at that. And that takes a toll on us. I'm not saying it's hard. It takes a toll on us, that discipline, because we're human beings. We're emotional. And we're emotional beings, and we have a life outside of this. And I believe all parts affect the whole. Just like I taught in, as I started off as a life coach, etc., the mind-body connection, right? You know, what we think about impacts how we feel, and how we feel impacts how we think. It's a two-way street. And just like as our business, you know, our business impacts what happens outside and how we interact with the world, and what happens outside of our business with our relationships, with anything else, our health, it impacts our business. And so oftentimes, especially when we're dealing with things outside of our business, it's really challenging, to be honest with you, to have to come into your office at a given time and do certain activities. Now, I found over the years, if I've got clients, no matter what's going on in my world, no matter how messy it is or how much it's, you know, throwing me for a loop, so to speak, I can get on, you know, with a client or into a group, you know, some of my paid work with my clients, and I can be great. In fact, that's a great sanctuary for me because it pulls me away and allows me for the hour, the 90 minutes, the 30 minutes, whatever I'm with a client for, to forget about what's going on in my world and to just be present in there to help somebody. And I very often leave those sessions feeling fantastic and feeling great and feeling recentered, and it's great. The challenging part about business, though, especially, is when we don't have clients, or we don't have few clients, or outside of that client time, when we're required to have the discipline to actually, make new calls, make new contacts, go to networking meetings, the marketing aspects of our business, send emails out, follow up with people, launch another program, invite people to something like a webinar, etc., invite people to an event, calling, emailing, following up. That's the stuff that's not easy for a lot of people. That's one of the reasons why some of the fundamentals I teach with my students is the selling skill set and the presentation skills, and obviously structuring our businesses, understanding what we need to do in a given amount of time, the percentages of time and how that breaks down. Those are things that are very important. But with that being said, it's not easy when some of our world, or we're not in that space, or we're just not in the mood, or we're tired, or we'd rather be whatever. This is not an easy thing. So those are some of the things that what I've learned with that is I don't have to be in the mood. That's a big one that I've realized, is that I always I've got to get myself ready for this, or I used to think that I had to be in the right space, and if I wasn't in the right space, I didn't feel right, I would just postpone it, and I used to rationalize that. And it's just like, well, listen, I've got to structure my day so that if I'm in the mood, great. If I'm in the space where I can do, let's say, those marketing endeavors, then fantastic. But I've got to structure my time and my hours where I got to know what's required of me on a given daily, weekly basis in terms of marketing and things like that. And I've got to schedule that stuff in there. So when I get to that time spot in my day, it doesn't matter what I'm feeling. And I'm not saying that I'm not cruel to myself, like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. But you can only just rationalize putting it off so long before another week, another month goes by, or another quarter, and you haven't done anything, and by just avoiding those things. And so I might not be in the space, I might be tired, I might be whatever is going on, but if I have time scheduled for reaching out or networking events or things like that, what I would do is I would just do them. And I would start to recognize and honor, if you will, that, okay, I'm maybe not in the best space right now, but I'm going to be disciplined and do this. Very oftentimes on the back end of that hour, 2 hours, whatever time frame it was, or once I get going, I started feeling better. It's kind of like the workout that you don't want to go to when you wake up in the morning, but you go to, and the minute that you're there, you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad I came. Right? It's getting started a lot of the times, right? But we need that raw discipline. Sometimes we need something like a schedule to tell us what to do. That's why those of you that have followed me for a while, you might have heard me say, the schedule is our boss. The schedule is my boss. I write down at the beginning of my day, at the beginning of the week, what's due of me, what's expected of me in every given time slot, where I'm working and where I'm not working, even if it's free time outside of my business hours. Doesn't mean I have everything blocked off, but I might have, okay, at this time to this time, I have nothing planned. Great. But at least I know I've got nothing planned. Right? The schedule tells me what to do. When I'm in my office, if I've got a client, I got a client. And if I've got marketing stuff, I've got marketing stuff. So when I get to that time frame, it doesn't matter whether I'm disciplined or not. I look at the schedule, which is my boss, and then the schedule says, all right, the next hour I've got some marketing time. And I just acknowledge if I'm not super productive mode. All right, so maybe I'll reach out to 5 people normally, and I reached out to 2 people today in that time frame. All right, so I used to beat myself up a little bit, or I never get started, or I talk myself out of it, or I would just I would be disappointed that I only reached out to 2 people and I knew I could have done better. But then as I've evolved, I'm like, well, why? You did something. You actually did it. And you're a human being. You can't expect to produce like a machine. Even machines break down, right? But a machine, you set at a certain pace and it gives a certain output. And it's a machine, and it's expected to work, and no matter what, you just turn it on like your car. You get in your car, you turn it on, you just expect it to work. Doesn't matter the temperature, doesn't matter the weather, doesn't matter, when it was tuned up or not last or maintained. You just turn that key or push the button, and it's gonna start. But we're not a machine. And so sometimes we can work at different capacities. You might have an hour to do marketing, and you squeeze so much into that hour. You might have an hour for marketing and barely get much, if anything, done. Right? But you've got to honor those spaces. The key is following that schedule so you can stay disciplined enough. Other things of what I've learned of how to weather the ups and downs, especially with economies and markets, and especially now, I don't know what if not you follow in terms of the economy and inflation and the bubbles that we're in, the stock market, the real estate market, etc. But obviously, there's I'm talking about it for years. But if you have investments and if you have money in play, if you own a home or real estate or things like that, you probably pay attention a lot closer to that. With that being said, who knows what's going to be happening, over the next several years. I remember back in 2008 when we had that crash, real estate, etc. The economy was tough, and I was still in my coaching business. I was 4 or 5 years into it at that point. I started in 2004. I was doing well. I was still earning money, but things were stressful. Things got a lot more lean. And having been through that in my business, I still did well, but I was a lot more stressed. I remember being a lot more stressed because my bills were higher. I had mortgages to pay. I had cars to pay. I had school to pay, for my son. Like, there's a lot of stuff I was responsible for financially. So even while earning a good income, there were moments where I was still stressed. And so what I've learned from there, coming out of there, and here I am now, still in business, I've learned that no matter what, always live lean and stay lean, even in abundant times. And what I mean by lean is, especially financially, is be really strong with yourself financially. And especially when you get to points in your business, a lot of people think like, oh, I want to earn lots of money and things like that, and I want to have more than enough. And it's very easy when you start earning more money and having more than enough to spend more than enough, or even more than what you have, or create a situation where there's more zeros at the end. There might be more zeros on the paycheck, so to speak, at the end of the month, but there's also now more zeros on your expenses. Right, and so it creates a very stressful situation to have to keep that pace and moving forward. And I was always under the standpoint of saving and investing, and even when times have been more abundant, to really watch those things. Therefore, I can still enjoy myself. I'm not saying don't enjoy yourself, but what I've said is I would always have certain criteria, for saving for myself, and no matter what I would earn, whether it was way more than enough or just enough, or just a little more than enough, or not enough some months, right? I was in a situation where I would set myself up over time where I wouldn't have to worry about that, and being really strong financially. So I want you to start to think about your business, especially a lot of you are in a spot where maybe you haven't earned much of anything yet in your business. And so I want you to start to see yourself in a situation where no matter what the times are going on with yourself, your economics, your personal family economics, or the economics of the world, to set yourself up for success. So even when you get to that point when you're earning way more than enough, hopefully, you're still living within moderation. You can have your fun here and there, but still live within that moderation. So when or if times and things change, which they will, right? That's the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. There's going to be, times and months where you're going to have more business than you could ever want. And then there's going to be times and months where it's like, I haven't gotten business in 2 months. I remember, even I've been doing this for a while. I remember years, I was like, sometimes there were 2-3 months before I would get a new client. And I was like, oh my God. And when I looked at the reality of it, I was like, oh my gosh, and that it would get scary. It would get scary, so that's why it's starting to really there's a pace we've got to set ourselves up for. There's a certain cadence we've got to establish with ourselves, which is very, very important. There's no rush to this thing because I really want to start to ingrain in you that long-term mindset, and we've got to be able to get into your office, or you got to be able to get into your office. This is the last thing I'll share as we pull this together is you got to be able to get in your office and recognize that it's just, today is just a small little microscopic day in the series of the next 10, 20 years of you doing your business, or 30 years, or whatever it is. It's just a microscopic moment. And so it doesn't mean that doesn't matter. Of course it matters, but it doesn't have to matter to the point where it throws you off balance, or throws you off kilter, or you put too much into not getting a call back, or too much into, how productive you are in a given time frame. The key is that you did something, you did the right things. You're not fooling yourself that I'm staying all behind the scenes and pretending this is marketing, right? That's one thing, but you've done something. You made a new connection. Maybe you wanted to do 2 or 3, but you did 1. That's great. Move on. It's all the little work that adds up over time. And that's why I want you to start to see it from the microscopic level all the way down to the bigger perspective level, because I think, oh geez, right now as of this show, it's 2022 and I started in 2004. Right, that's a long time. But what's going to happen in it, just because I've had success along the way doesn't mean that in 2026 or 2030 or 2035, if I'm still wanting to do this, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be here and in business. There's no guarantee about anything. So it's being grateful for what you have as you go along, but it just because you've done something or achieved something doesn't mean that tomorrow you'll achieve the same thing or more. You've got to keep working at it, and the work never stops. The evolution of you, the evolution of your business, the evolution of what you do, it never stops. It's never ending. You don't just show up at work and get the paycheck and then move on. If that's where you want to be, that's the job. This is not a job. This is constant evolution on yourself, and it's never ending, but I don't say that in an exhaustive way. I say that in an opportunistic way. The energy is very different around that. When we think about it in terms of opportunity, that's where it gives us opportunities to grow, opportunities to advance ourselves, become more valuable, serve better, be able to learn skill sets that are going to allow us to create conversations, open up conversations, create business for ourselves. There's nothing better. There's nothing more rewarding from a self-esteem. And I say nothing more rewarding, just take it for what it is. There's nothing more rewarding in business anyways when we're able to take something like what we do, take a service like coaching and sell it to somebody, where someone says, I see value in this. Here's whatever thousands of dollars that I'm hiring you with. It's pretty cool. It's way different than selling a tangible product or something like that, because it's very different. It's very different. Even when I wrote my book and I sold a book or an audio course or things like that, or a program that was like a course that someone was buying that didn't require me for, it was different than selling coaching. It still was a lot because I put a lot of myself into that, but a tangible product that you sell is very different than selling what we do, which is coaching, which is very, very different and very challenging to sell. That's why it's so important to understand the process we take people through, which is obviously what I teach my students with my groups and my one-on-one stuff. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Hopefully this gives you some different insights into, weathering the ups and downs of a coaching business, gives you some philosophies and some mindsets that I've had along the way. Love to hear any of your comments down below if you're watching this live or the recording of this as well. And of course, if you're in a position where you're thinking, I need some help, and you would value my guidance and my mentorship. In the description here down below, there's information about a 5-month group mentor coaching program I'm offering. I'll be launching another one of those in the next month or so. So click that link, check that out. Or you can reach out to me directly through my website, sellingcoaching.com. Fill out the form at the bottom of the Work With Me page. I'll follow up and we can create a relaxed conversation from there. Until next time, create a great week and do what you can. Whether you're up or down or sideways, do what you can in the given time frame and see what you'll be able to accomplish in a given week. Thanks, everyone.